Hello guys, Dr. Cinema here. I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about a specific kind of sequel that chances are we're going to see a lot more of. Legacy sequels. Now, it is a little bit different from a regular sequel. A regular sequel usually comes out somewhere between 2 to 5 years after an original movie comes out. Some examples of this include Iron Man 2 coming out a couple years after the first Iron Man, and then Iron Man 3 coming out a few years after Iron Man 2. And the story in those movies similarly takes place the same amount of years after the original work or the previous movie. Those are your normal sequels. A legacy sequel is a little bit different. It's a sequel to an original work. However, it comes out usually a lot later than most sequels, and the story in that sequel usually takes place farther ahead in the future. And it also includes some characters from the original movie, but it will focus on brand new characters to move the narrative and story forward. The best example of this would be how Blade Runner, a 1982 film, didn't really do that well when it first came out, but it's considered one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time. And then we have Blade Runner 2049, coming out in 2017. Now, the narrative in the first Blade Runner takes place in the year 2019. The narrative in Blade Runner 2049 takes place, as you can tell, 2049. And there's a pretty big gap in between those movies, a few decades, roughly speaking. And in Blade Runner 2049, it focuses on a brand new set of characters. But it does include Harrison Ford returning to the role of Deckard, and I believe the actor who played a sort of partner Blade Runner cop in the original movie also makes an appearance in the sequel. And so that's basically what a legacy sequel is. It moves the story and the narrative forward from the original work, but it does include a few characters from the original work and also sort of celebrates or pays homage to the original film. Now, of course, while these two movies didn't have any other movie in between them, there are sometimes legacy sequels that isn't the first sequel in the franchise, but can be considered one. As we all know, the original Star Wars trilogy ran from about 1977 to early slash mid 80s. I can't remember exactly when Return of the Jedi came out, but I'm guessing in that time frame. And while we did get other movies after the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, these are prequels, not really sequels. So some could argue the prequel trilogy is sort of legacy sequel, but again, it's prequels, doesn't really count. However, The Force Awakens could be considered a legacy sequel in a way. It does the story of that movie does take place after the events of the original trilogy, focuses on a brand new cast of characters, and it does have several characters from the original trilogy show up and play important roles. Princess Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and of course Luke Skywalker at the very end. Now, of course, there can be some legacy sequels that, again, aren't the only sequel in the franchise, but will retcon other sequels. The best example of this is with the Halloween franchise. In 2018, Blumhouse released their Halloween movie, Halloween. Don't know why they didn't give it a different title, but okay. Now, it is technically the 11th movie in the franchise, or 9th if you don't count Rob Zombie's sequel and Rob Zombie's remake and its sequel. However, the Blumhouse Halloween movie retcons all the other movies except for the original, making it the only canon sequel to the 1978 classic. And it does have Jamie Lee Curtis return as Laurie Strode, and the actor who portrayed Michael Myers in the original film does come back for some scenes in this new one, with other scenes being done by a more younger, more physically fit person. And of course, it does celebrate the what makes the original Halloween so great, while also doing its own unique thing with it. Now, usually legacy sequels come under a lot of scrutiny, and the legacy sequels I mentioned have really been accepted with some pretty great receptions. Halloween 2018 is considered the best since the original Halloween. The Force Awakens, while it can be criticized as too much like A New Hope, is objectively more well received than The Last Jedi. And Blade Runner 2049 is a really great film, with some people, including myself, thinking it's actually better than the original film. However, that's not always the case with legacy sequels. Earlier this month, we got the movie Mary Poppins Returns, a sequel to the original Mary Poppins, which came out in 1964, I think it's the specific year, but it came out in the 60s. And this is the first sequel since that Mary Poppins movie. And it really hasn't been received quite that well. I mean, we do have characters from the original film show up, but they're not played by the same actors. Like, we have Mary Poppins, but this time played by Emily Blunt, and we've got Michael Jane, but this time played by adult versions. And we have Dick Van Dyke, but he's not returning as Bert. And does celebrate the original film, and it is very similar to it on a fundamental and technical level. But a lot of people saying it's not really that worthy, that necessary of a sequel. So it is a legacy sequel, but it's not really one that's gotten that much positive reception, hasn't really been faring that well with critics. And so legacy sequels can be a little bit more tricky than regular sequels, considering how much time has passed since the original film, and depending how well loved and how famous that original piece of movie is. So that's basically what a legacy sequel is. I just wanted to take the time to do this video. Hopefully I'll get this video up later today or tomorrow soon. And hopefully I'll get one more video out before the new year. But in case I don't, hope your holidays are great. See you in the new year. But again, hopefully I'll get one more video up. But anyway, Dr. Cinema, like, comment, subscribe, share. See you next time.